The Chicago YouTube Accelerator is coming up, and it's about actually getting it done. We've got our friends Jeff Hampton and Ryan Weber joining us to lead it because they're doing the thing. Ryan's biggest client, who happens to be his wife, is known as the real estate lawyer on YouTube and has over 95,000 subscribers. And Jeff's law firm channel, Hampton Law, is sitting close to 600,000 subscribers. These aren't people guessing at YouTube, they're in it, and they're laying out exactly what's working and how you can apply it to your firm. You'll dial in your niche, map out your content, script and film your first video, and build the back end so it actually turns into a system. We're in the last month before this event. If you want YouTube figured out this year, this is the place. Grab your ticket to the Chicago YouTube Accelerator at MaxLawEvents.com.
Welcome back to Maximum Lawyer Live. I'm Tyson Mutrux, and today what I thought I would do is I would go through this article with you that I find really fascinating by a gentleman by the name of Dan Koe. And the name of it is How to Fix Your Entire Life in One Day. I know that it's been somewhat popular. I don't know how widespread this is, but it is a really fascinating article. It really is. This, you can see, I've got it on the screen for those of you that are watching live in the association, or if you're watching the recording on YouTube, you're seeing this, but you've got 185 million views. You've got 8,600 people commented on it. It's been reposted 60,000 times. It's been liked almost 300,000 times. So pretty popular. So let me, I'm just going to read segments of it. I'm not going to, I'm basically going to read segments and then we're going to discuss it a little bit, and this is from January. So this has been around for, at this point, almost 6 months, but he starts with, if you're anything like me, you think New Year's resolutions are stupid. I'm no offense to anybody. I'm in the same boat. I agree with him. He says, because most people go about changing their lives in the completely wrong way. They create these resolutions because everyone else does. We create a superficial meaning out of status games, but they don't meet the requirements for true change, which goes a lot deeper than convincing yourself you're going to be more disciplined or productive this year. Completely agree. People just said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to create this goal. And they've done nothing. When it comes to designing their life, they just are just like, oh, I'm going to throw this goal out there and then do nothing else to actually make sure that they are successful in that. And then they fail. That's what happens. I think, what is it? I don't know. I'm going to make up the number, but it's like 80 or 90% fail in the first couple weeks or something like that. It's kind of crazy. But as he puts here, this will be comprehensive. This is very comprehensive. That's why I'm going to try to go as quickly as possible. Make sure you find it's Dan Koe. So at the Dan Koe, Koe is his last name, at the Dan Koe. And this is on X, is where I get this article. I don't really know what that symbol right there means, but here we go. All right, so let me just add another thing to this. This isn't one of those letters, he says, that you read through and forget about. This is something you will want to bookmark, take notes on, and set aside the time to think about. I agree with this. I do agree with this. You'll see why in a second. There's some specific questions that we're going to get to later on in the article that you're going to want to write down. So just make sure you're ready for that. As you're listening or watching, you're going to want to get a pencil or a pen and some paper, or you're going to want to type this in. So the first part of this, he says, you aren't where you want to be because you aren't the person who would be there. When it comes to setting big goals, people tend to focus on one of the two requirements for success: changing your actions to make progress toward the goal, in parentheses, least important, second order. Number two, changing who you are so that your behavior naturally follows, most important, in parentheses, first order. Most people set a surface level goal, hype themselves up to remain disciplined for the first few weeks, then go back to their old ways without much struggle because they were trying to build a great life on a rotting foundation. If that doesn't make sense, he says, let's run through an example. Think of somebody successful. It can be a bodybuilder with a great physique, a founder slash CEO worth hundreds of millions, or a charismatic dude who can chat up a group without a shred of anxiety entering his mind. Do you think the bodybuilder has to grind to eat healthy? Does the CEO have to discipline themselves to show up and lead the team? To you, it may seem like that on the surface, but the truth is that they can't see themselves living any other way. The bodybuilder has to grind to eat unhealthily. The CEO has to force themselves to lie in bed past their alarm clock, and they hate every second of it. There is nuance here. Just entertain me for a second, he says. To some people, my own lifestyle seems a bit extreme and disciplined. To me, it's natural, and I don't say that to contrast it with any other kind of lifestyle. I'm just gonna pause for a second. What he's talking about, I think it kind of oversimplifies it, but I do think it's important. I think this is also why a lot of the mindset stuff that Jason Self talks about, why it's so important in getting the mindset part of it right. That way you're really training yourself to think this way, right? Um, that's why, like, if you want to be that CEO type, you have to. I mean, I was just having a similar conversation with my daughter just yesterday because she wants to get better at setting when it comes to volleyball. She's playing volleyball. She's getting really good. She wants to get better at setting, and she kept saying, she knows I hate this. She was almost doing it just to tease me, but she was like, I suck at setting, like, and I said, hold on a second, let's change the wording here. And she said, oh, I'm working on getting better at setting. She was like, and then next thing you know, we were saying, I'm amazing at setting. I'm amazing. That was an amazing set. Like, so she was talking the talk, right? She was almost convincing herself of this. And it was very effective. I will tell you. You should have seen how she was doing when she was saying, I suck at setting versus when she was saying, I'm amazing at setting. It was night and day, not even close. It has a significant impact on things. The way you talk to yourself, the way you talk, the way you think about yourself, all of those are really important. I think that's what he's talking about. All right. He says, I simply enjoy living this way. When my mom tells me that I should take a break, go out and have some fun, I hold my tongue from telling her, if I weren't having fun, why would I be doing what I'm doing? Yada, yada, yada. Okay. So not going to go too much into this, but I'm going to skip to the last paragraph of this. You say you want to change. You say you want to become financially free and get healthy, but your actions show otherwise for a reason. And it goes a lot deeper than you think. Okay. So a lot of this he's going to talk about in this article. You have to take action on these things. Just thinking about it's not enough. So we are going to get to that part too. Part two of this. You aren't where you want to be because you don't want to be there. Okay. This is an interesting one. So, because just let's just step back so you can kind of just think about what he just said. You aren't where you want to be because you don't want to be there, right? That seems like kind of a contradiction in terms, because you say you want to be somewhere, but you actually don't want to be there. So the quote he has, trust only movement. Life happens at the level of events, not of words. Trust movement. And that's by Alfred Adler. And again, I mentioned that he's going to talk about movement and actually doing things and taking action. He says, if you want to change who you are, you must understand how the mind works so that you can start to reprogram it. First step to understanding the mind is to understand that all behavior is goal-oriented. It's teleological. I had to practice that before I actually said it, to be honest with you, because that's not an easy way to say it for me. When you think about it, when you want to think about it, this is kind of obvious. But when we dig into it, most people don't want to hear it. So true. I can tell you from the years of the guild and the association with Maximum Lawyer, many people don't want to hear this. They don't. If you're listening to this, you may not want to hear it, right? You just may not want to, but that's the reality of it. It's some people it takes a little bit longer. You take a step forward because you want to reach a certain location. You scratch your nose because you want to make the itch go away. Those ones are clear, but most of the time your goals are unconscious. You may not realize that when you sit on the couch in the middle of the day, you're trying to burn time before your next responsibility, as one simple example. On an even more unconscious and complex level, you pursue goals that can harm you, but you justify your actions in a way that is socially acceptable and doesn't make you seem like a loser. As an example, if you can't stop procrastinating your work, you may justify it with the fact that you lack discipline, but in reality, you are attempting to achieve a goal like you always are. In this case, the goal could be to protect yourself from the judgment that comes from finishing and sharing your work. Completely could be. I'm guilty of not that specifically, but sometimes I will not do something for a specific reason, and I just don't want to admit what that reason is. I'm usually not share. I'm not usually afraid to share it because of afraid to share my work. It's usually something else. But if you say you want to quit your dead end job, but you stay in it without any real reason, you may start to think you don't have enough courage, or that you were never really a risk taker. But the truth is that you are pursuing the goal of safety, predictability, an excuse to not look like a failure to everyone else in your life who sees working a dead end job as a sign of success. So, so the lesson here is that real change requires changing your goals. So if you are working in a job right now and you've thought about starting your own firm, but you're afraid to do it because you're afraid of what people might think, or you've got this really nice office, and so you're afraid of what people might think you're a failure because you don't have a really nice office. There's all these other things going on. So this is something you're really going to want to think about. And there's these questions I'm going to get to later on that are really going to help with some of this. So he says, now let's dig a bit deeper, because if you don't understand this, it only becomes more difficult to get out. Okay, here we go. You are number 3. If you aren't where you want to be because you're afraid to be there. So he gives a quote by Maxwell Maltz. The important thing for you to remember is that it does not matter in the least how you got the idea or where it came from. You may never have met a professional hypnotist. You may never have been formally hypnotized. But if you have accepted an idea from yourself, your teachers, your parents, friends, advertisements, from any other source, and further, if you are firmly convinced that idea is true, it has the same power over you as the hypnotist's words have over the hypnotized subject. And this is where I think he really starts to get into the heart of the article. So here's how you become who you are today and how you'll become who you'll be tomorrow. This is the anatomy of identity. Number 1, you want to achieve a goal. Number 2, you perceive reality through the lens of that goal. Okay. So you want to achieve the goal, you perceive reality through the lens of that goal. Number 3, you only notice quote unquote important information and ideas that allows you to achieve that goal. This is called learning. Number 4, you act toward that goal and receive feedback that you are progressing. Okay. Progressing toward it. Okay. So I'll use sort of jiu-jitsu. Like, I want to become a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Okay. So that's the goal I want to have. Okay. So I'm going to perceive reality through the lens of that goal. The reality is it's going to take 10 years. Okay. 10, probably 12 for me. Just not because I'm bad at it, just because I can't go 4 times a week. I just don't have that time. Right. So 2, 3 times a week, I'm already working out and doing other things. So it's hard. That's the reality. Okay. Number 3, you only notice important information and ideas that allows you to achieve that goal. So if all my feeds are all full of jiu-jitsu stuff. Okay. 4, you act toward the goal. And I've also got books and stuff that I read. 4, you act toward that goal and receive feedback that you are progressing. So we get, we roll. I get stripes for advancing, all that kind of stuff. So that's sort of the feedback. Number 5, you repeat that behavior until it becomes automatic and unconscious. So boom, it's kind of sort of the part of the process now. Continue to do it. So I'm kind of conditioned. And I really want you to pay attention to 6 and 7 here, because he's got a note on this that I want to talk about. Number 6, that behavior becomes a part of who you think you are. I am the type of person who, is really good at jiu-jitsu. I'm just going to make up that part of it. Number 7, okay. You defend your identity to maintain psychological consistency. Okay. So I defend the fact that I'm really good at jiu-jitsu. I'm really good at jiu-jitsu. Okay. Number 8, your identity shapes new goals. And I'm going to come back to that example. I gave that for a reason. I'm going to come back to that example as to why that's so dangerous. Okay. Because he's going to talk about that. Your identity shapes new goals, restarting the cycle. And if that identity is disadvantageous toward a good life, this gets bad very quick. Okay. All right. So this is, let's say that I every time I leave jiu-jitsu, I'm pretty much in pain, but let's say it caused me a really serious injury and I kept doing it, which then caused me to just always really always be in pain. That's what he's talking about here. This could get bad very quickly. So this is why this is jiu-jitsu is a good example, but there's other parts of life that could be even worse. The unfortunate reality is that you must break the cycle between 6 and 7, but this process starts when you are a child. Okay, 6. Okay, that behavior becomes part of who you are, right? And then you defend your identity to maintain psychological consistency. So the reality is, the last tournament I went to, I lost 3 matches. It sucked. It just was not good. It was just, I got a bad draw. I got all these excuses I can give you, whatever. But if I continue to tell myself I'm just amazing at this, I'm really good at it. Now, I also take into consideration you still have to have that confidence, but I still also have to kind of separate the two. Like, I need to get better. And if I don't separate 6 and 7, I'm not going to get better. Like, you have to separate 6 and 7 about, your identity and who you are, and then trying to defend that identity to maintain your psychological consistency. That's where you still have to, and this is one of the things where, like, Jason doesn't tell you to blindly just believe these things. There's all parts of what we go through is like, okay, where do I need to improve? How do I improve on it? Like, there's that part of his sort of, I'll call, program or his teaching, where you have to separate the two. And that's all, I think, a lot of what he's talking about. So continuing on where he was, you have the goal of survival. You are dependent on your parents to teach you how to survive. You had to conform. And since the way most people teach is through reward and punishment, unless you adopt their beliefs and values, you will be punished. You don't actually think for yourself until you see through this. But your parents have also gone through this process throughout their entire lives. That's where it can be dangerous. Your parents, unless they broke the pattern themselves, were conditioned by the culturally accepted ideas of success from the industrial age. They also carry the best and worst conditioning from their parents and their parents' parents. So this is really interesting. And so this is where I'm going to direct you to read the rest of this part of it, so you get more into it. But you get the point, how deep this can really go and how important it is to really break that cycle. Okay. I'll read the last couple paragraphs. One of it does reference lawyers. So if you were raised in a religious household and did not think for yourself, you will fight and attack others who threaten your psychological safety within that little bubble. The same thing happens when you unconsciously see yourself as a lawyer, a gamer, or somebody else who would not take the actions to achieve a better life. Okay. Here we go. Number 4, the life you want lies within a specific level of mind. Okay. The life you want lies within a specific level of mind. The mind evolves through predictable stages over time. When you're born, you're like a little survival sponge that absorbs whatever beliefs you can, which are heavily dictated by your culture, so that you can feel safe and secure. And if you don't be careful, your mind may crystallize, and it may make it difficult to live a meaningful life. Okay. And he talks about how this has been documented through the models like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, greater stages of ego development, spiral dynamics, integral theory, yada, yada, yada. They all kind of build off of another. And so he had created this human model 3.0 with various AI prompts to uncover level development path, yada, yada, yada. So he does create this. There's this AQUAL, AQ, AL, all quadrants, levels, stages, states, lines, types. It's an integral map, and it's got all these different types, which we're going to get to in just a moment. He does talk about these things in it. And you've got ironist, magician, strategist, individualist, achiever, expert, diplomat, opportunist, impulsive. So all these different things, which, like I said, he's gonna get to. So number one, impulsive, no separation between impulse and action. And let me say this, because they're how basically everyone falls within one of these. So I'm going to read this part first before I read them, actually. So for most people reading this, I would assume you hover between 4 and 8, which is a huge gap. The closer to 8 are reading this. Those closer to 8 are reading this are doing so to either learn something or pass time in a non-destructive way. So basically, everyone falls into somewhere on this range. So number one, impulsive, no separation between impulse and action, black and white thinking. 2, self-protective, the world is dangerous and you learned to look out for yourself. Conformist, you are your group and its rules. You are your group and its rules feel like reality itself. Self-aware, you notice you have an inner life that doesn't match the exterior. Conscientious, you build your own system of principles and hold yourself accountable to them. Individualist, you see that your principles were shaped by context and start holding them more loosely. And by the way, there's examples for each of these. Read the articles to see the examples. Strategist, you look with, and this is number 7, you work with systems while aware of your own involvement in them. Number 8, construct aware, which is you see all frameworks, including your identity, as useful fictions. Number 9, intuitive or unitive is what that is. Separation between self and life dissolves. Okay. The good thing is, and this is, I'm going to go to the very end of this, it doesn't really matter what stage you are in because moving through any of them follows a pattern. And so we're getting to number 5 here. Intelligence is the ability to get what you want out of life. This is a really important part of this whole article, by the way. I think he's spot on with this. The only real test of intelligence is you get what you want out of life. Naval Ravikant. There is a formula for success. One ingredient is agency. One ingredient is opportunity. And he says, which many people like to mistake as privilege. The third part of it is the last ingredient is intelligence. If you have high agency but low opportunity, it doesn't matter how likely you are to act toward a goal because it isn't a goal that will bear much fruit. Okay. With that said, I want to focus on, I'm skipping through some parts of this. I want to focus on what intelligence is in the context of these 2 other ingredients. And this letter for that, we look to cybernetics. Cybernetics comes from the Greek word kybernetikos. I think I got that actually, which means to steer or good at steering. It's also known as the art of getting what you want. Very interesting. So if Naval's definition of intelligence is getting what you want out of life, understanding cybernetics helps you do that much faster. Cybernetics illustrate the properties of intelligent systems. To have a goal, act toward that goal, sense where you are, compare it to the goal, and act again based on that feedback. And what it has is it's got a boat going towards a lighthouse. And sort of think about if you're heading to, and you can think of this as a pilot too if you're flying, but you're heading towards a destination. If you start to get off to the left, you're going to steer right. If you start to get over to the right, you're going to steer left. So you're going to bump it back and forth. That's the point of having a compass, right? You're getting things back on track. You can judge intelligence based on the system's ability to iterate and persist with trial and error. So as you're building AI, this is something that you can really think about when it comes to whether or not your AI is working correctly. And so you can judge intelligence based on the system's ability to iterate and persist with trial and error. So let's say it's working on a document. Think about the boat in the lighthouse. The finished documents of the lighthouse, the beginning of it's the boat, right? And you're trying to get the boat to the lighthouse, and each edit should be getting the boat closer to the lighthouse. And if it's not, your AI is not working. That's just the easiest way of looking at it. A ship blown off course that corrects towards its destination. A thermostat sensing a change in heat and turning on. The pancreas excreting insulin after blood glucose spikes. You get the point. So it really comes down to everything. Low intelligence people get stuck on problems rather than solving them. Okay, that's a really important one. They hit a roadblock and quit, like a writer who fails to build a readership and quits because they lack the ability to try new things, yada, yada, yada. I'm gonna skip through that, but it really is about iterating and getting better. Okay. Goals determine how you see the world. Goals determine what you consider success or failure. You can try to enjoy the journey, but if you pursue the wrong goal, you will not enjoy it. Your mind is the operating system for reality. That system is composed of goals. Okay. So to become more intelligent, you must reject the known path, dive into the unknown, set new, higher goals to expand your mind, embrace the chaos and allow for growth, study the generalized principles of nature, and become a deep generalist. Okay. Very important. Deep generalist. I understand this may not be the traditional definition of intelligence, but that sequence of steps leads to an extraordinary level of connections in your brain, leading to what we observe as an intelligent person. Okay. Okay. Number 6, how to launch into a completely new life in one day. The best periods of my life always came after a period of getting absolutely fed up with the lack of progress I was making. How do you dig into your mind? How do you become aware of conditioning? Okay, so I want to skip ahead to, he says, when I observe patterns in people who successfully flip their identity, it happens fast after a buildup of tension. Specifically, I've noticed 3 phases that people tend to go through. Dissonance, they feel like they don't belong in their current life and become sufficiently fed up with their lack of progress. Uncertainty, they don't know what comes next, so they either experiment or get lost or feel worse. Discovery, they discover what they want to pursue and make 6 years of progress in 6 months. So our goal with this protocol is to help you reach the point of dissonance, navigating through uncertainty and discover what it truly is, what you want to achieve, so much so that the clarity is overwhelming and distractions no longer hold their weight. Okay, so this is really interesting because he goes through morning, afternoon, I think, and then evening is how it's put. But part 1, morning, psychological excavation, vision and anti-vision. First, we must create a new frame or lens of perception for your mind to operate from. And by the way, I'm going to probably go a little bit long here, but this is like creating a new shell, leaving your old one, and slowly growing into a new one over time. It won't feel like this at first. That's a good thing. So set aside 15 to 30 minutes for this. He says it's the length of a YouTube video, so you can do it. A little bit of encouragement for you. He says, don't use AI for this. I want you to break past the limiter that is on your mind. If you can't answer these immediately, come back to them later. Number 1, what is the dull? So he wants you to answer these in the morning. This is what the morning routine is. What is the dull and persistent dissatisfaction you learn to live with? Not the deep suffering, but what you've learned to tolerate. If you don't hate it, you will tolerate it. That's what he says in parentheses. Number 2, what do you complain about repeatedly but never actually change? Write down the 3 complaints you've voiced most often in the past year. Number 3, for each complaint, what would someone who watched your behavior, not your words, in parentheses, conclude that you actually want? For each complaint, what would someone who watched your behavior conclude that you actually want? Number 4, what truth about your current life would be unbearable to admit to someone you deeply respect? Okay. Those questions are meant to make you aware of the pain in your current life. Now we need to turn those into what I call anti-vision, which is a brutal awareness of the life you want to live. That way you can use that negative energy to aim your efforts in a positive direction. Okay. Number 1, if absolutely nothing changes for the next 5 years, describe an average Tuesday. Where do you wake up? What does your body feel like? What's the first thing you think about? Who's around you? What do you do between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m.? How do you feel at 10 p.m.? Number 2, now do it, but for 10 years. What have you missed? What opportunities closed? Who gave up on you? What do people say about you when you're not in the room? Number 3, you're at the end of your life. You lived the safe version. You never broke the pattern. What was the cost? What did you never let yourself feel, try, or become? Number 4, who in your life is already living the future you just described? Someone 5, 10, 20 years ahead on the same trajectory. What do you feel when you think about becoming them? Ooh, that's a good one. Number 5, what identity would you have to give up to actually change? Quote unquote, I am the type of person who, what would cost you socially to no longer be that person? Number 6, what is the most embarrassing reason you haven't changed? The one that makes you sound weak, scared, or lazy rather than reasonable. Number 7, if your current behavior is a form of self-protection, what actually are you protecting? And what is the protection costing you? Okay. If you answer those truthfully, and if you are in the right chapter of your life, you feel a deep sense of dis-ease and possibly disgust for how you are currently living. I think this is such a powerful exercise. He says, forget practicality for a moment. If you could snap your fingers and be living a different life in 3 years, not what's realistic, what would you actually want? What you actually want? What does an average Tuesday look like? Same level of detail as question 5. So these are new questions for you. Number 2, what would you have to believe about yourself for that life to feel natural rather than forced? Write the identity statement. I am the type of person who, and then fill it in. Number 3, what is one thing you would do this week if you were already that person? Answer all of those first thing in the morning tomorrow, he says. Part 2, throughout the day, interrupting autopilot, breaking unconscious patterns. These journaling exercises are cute, but we want real change. Frankly, that's not going to happen if you don't break the current unconscious patterns that are keeping you the same. All right, so throughout the day, I want you to contemplate everything you journaled in part 1. Beyond that, I don't want you to forget to contemplate. Please take this seriously. So the more random and non-conflicting with your schedule there are, the better. So basically, he gives an example. 11 a.m. What am I avoiding right now by doing what I'm doing? 1:30 p.m. If someone filmed the last 2 hours, what would they conclude I want from my life? 3:15. Am I moving toward the life I hate or the life I want? 5 p.m. What's the most important thing I'm pretending isn't important? 7:30. What did I do today out of identity protection rather than genuine desire? Hint, it's most things you do. He says, 9 p.m. When did I feel most alive today? When did I feel most dead? Ooh. To add a bit more fuel to the fire, schedule these questions during times where you are either commuting, walking, or lying around. What would change if I stopped needing people to see me as blank? And this is in the brackets, identity you wrote in question 10. Although I don't think there was a question. Oh, so it goes 7, and then when I said the 1, 2, 3, it's really 8, 9, 10. He didn't number it as a 10, but it was a 3, but this is number 10. And then, where in my life am I trading aliveness for safety? What's the smallest version of the person I want to become that I could be tomorrow? And then in the evening, synthesizing insight, entering a season of progress. And then you'll answer these questions after today. What feels most true about why you've been stuck? What is the actual enemy? Name it clearly, not circumstances, not other people, the internal pattern or belief that has been running the show. Number 3, write a single sentence that captures what you refuse to let your life become. This is your anti-vision compressed. It should make you feel something when you read it. Number 4, write a single sentence that captures what you're building toward, knowing it will evolve. This is your vision MVP. Lastly, ooh, that was a slip. Lastly, we need to create goals. Okay. Again, these aren't goals that you set for the sake of achievement, because goals are just projections. Okay. So here we go. 1 year lens. What would have to be true in 1 year for you to know you've broken the old pattern? One concrete thing. Number 2, 1 month lens. What would have to be true in 1 month for the 1 year lens to remain possible? Number 3, daily lens. What are 2 to 3 actions you can time block tomorrow that the person you're becoming would simply do? He says that was a lot. Hopefully it was helpful. And then the last part of it is, he says, turn your life into a video game. And this is a quote. I'm not even going to try the last name. It's Mihaly. The optimal state of inner experience is one in which there is order and consciousness. This happens when psychic energy or attention is invested in realistic goals. When skills match the opportunities for action, the pursuit of a goal brings order and awareness, because a person must concentrate attention on the task at hand and momentarily forget everything else. Okay. And then he talks about how it's helpful to organize all of your insights into one coherent plan, pull out a new page and write down these 6 components. And by the way, I'm having some allergies, so I'm having to clear my throat, and you can hear it in my voice a little bit, so I apologize. But anti-vision, vision, 1 year goal, 1 month project, daily levers and constraints. I'm going to leave those for the article, so you can check out the article. If you're watching this, you can see it on the screen, but I would encourage you. We'll put this in the show notes so you can have access to the article. So you turn your life into a video game because games are the poster child for obsession, enjoyment, and flow states. They all have the components that lead to focus and clarity. I want to read this so you understand why he says turn it into a video game. So if we reverse engineer what those components are, we can live in a state of deeper enjoyment, less distractions, and more success. Your vision is how you win. Your anti-vision is what's at stake. Your 1 year goal is the mission. Your 1 month project is the boss fight. Your daily levers are the quests. Your constraints are the rules. All of these act as concentric set of circles, like a force field that guard your mind from distractions and shiny objects. The more you play the game, the stronger this force becomes, and soon enough, it becomes who you are, and you wouldn't have it any other way. It says at the end, Dan. So thank you, Dan, for that. I think it's amazing. Really good stuff. Hopefully you all got something from this. I did go a little bit long, but I wanted to make sure I got all those questions in there because I think it really is powerful if you went through that. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments, and have a wonderful day. Make sure you check out beccaslist.co. Make sure you check out the association. Go to maxlawcon.com and get your tickets to MaxLawCon, maxlawcon.com. Thanks, everybody.
You know that feeling when you leave a conversation with someone and suddenly your brain is firing on all cylinders again? That's MaxLawCon. This October in Atlanta, you'll be surrounded by law firm owners who are building smarter businesses, dialing in their systems, growing their teams, using AI, improving intake, marketing, and finances, all of it. The conversations, ideas, and people in this room will push you to think bigger about what's possible for your firm. And honestly, there's just something different about being around people who are actually doing the thing. Go to maxlawcon.com and grab your ticket today.